Hello and welcome to another episode of the Manufacturing Leaders Podcast with me, Mark Bracknell, Managing Director of Theo James Recruitment. Today we had a very different episode to be that I normally record. So obviously predominantly this is a manufacturing leadership-esque podcast and something we're now on our 52nd, I believe, episode. November is a month where we celebrate and raise awareness for mental health. I am organising, along with two other people, a mental health charity walk on November the 17th from Whitburn, which will be a 10k walk to raise vital funds for Annie's Man Club and the awareness of mental health itself. This is a special edition episode with Anthony Hutton. Andy Hutton was the winner of Big Brother back in 2005. I'm soon to be 39. I remember Big Brother at its absolute peak, so I was very excited to interview Anthony, and it was a thoroughly enjoyable, very interesting episode. Anthony's now a barber and also an advocate and ambassador of mental health. So I was really keen to talk through his journey with him, and this is why he came on the show today to discuss that with me in terms of why he got on Big Brother, what Big Brother was like, but mainly the aftermath of Big Brother, the absolute highs of reaching that high of his life completely changing and just loving that experience, then ultimately to the very sharp low after that event and how his life was very different and had to pick himself up. And unfortunately, what led to that was him having an episode of pretty bad mental health, which he discussed. But the important thing is how he came out of it and the advice he gave and the lessons he's learned, which has now led him to be who he is today, will massively help anyone either struggling with mental health or someone in the future who may struggle with mental health. This felt like a really powerful episode. This felt like something that's definitely going to help someone. Even if you aren't someone who suffers from mental health now, I really think you will get a lot out of this episode. I really enjoyed it, and I felt very privileged to do so. So sit back, listen. Please feel free to subscribe to Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, whatever you're watching or listening on. I'll continue to get good people on the show. Hope you enjoy the episode. Good stuff. So today we welcome on Anthony Hutton onto the show, and a bit of a different episode. So typically, if you watch or listen before, I interview people from the manufacturing world, manufacturing leaders. November is a month now where people know that we raise awareness for mental health, which I think is fantastic. A lot of people growing their mustaches for November. We are doing a charity walk on the 17th of November to raise money for Annie's Man Club and obviously raise awareness of the charity. I got the opportunity today to interview Anthony, who some of you will know, will get him to introduce himself. And I certainly absolutely remember him, but he's also a very keen advocate of mental health and he's doing a lot in that space. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to get him on, understand a little bit more about him and the journey. So those of you who don't know, Anthony Hutton was the winner of Big Brother 5, I believe it is, back in
Big Brother 6, 2005.
2005. And I'm 38, so I'm at the peak age of when Big Brother was superb. So I remember it extremely well. So yes, but how are you? All good?
Yes, I'm very good. And firstly, thanks very much for having me on your podcast, Mark. I got recommended to get in touch, and I know that it's not your normal kind of topic, with your podcasts and stuff. So I appreciate you having me on.
No, thank you very much for coming on. Yeah, you were. I think the tip was Phil Atkinson. So Phil, MD of BTS Fabrication, I've had Phil and Nigel on the show, and Phil's a great guy. Am I right in saying you're doing a charity event for them? Are you coming up on the 13th?
Yes, yeah. I'm going to do a men's mental health talk, and then I'm doing a pop-up barbershop.
Nice.
Where I'm cutting all the staff's hair, but it works. It's a perfect fit for me because I do the men's mental health talk, and the barber chair is, I'm a barber for a living, and men open up in the barber chair, so it's a great fit. And what the aim is basically to try and build a culture where men talk and there's a strength in talking, and it's not a weakness, it's actually a strength. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Perfect stuff. So after this, I'll go right back to start. I think it'd be good for people perhaps who know you or don't know you to understand where you started out. But just to bring people to modern day initially, what are you doing now, Anthony? So you mentioned you're barbering now. You got your own sort of barbers, is that right?
Yes, so I'm a full-time barber. I'm a barber educator as well, where I deliver NVQ level 2 City and Guilds qualifications, and I do 1 day training where I go into salons and basically teach them improve their skill set on men's hair.
Right.
But yeah, all things barbering now.
And I love your mentality behind the fact exactly that typically, you are with men who were sat down talking, and I've never really thought about that concept until I saw you talk about that before. Because if I think about it, one of my favorite times is actually getting my hair cut, simply because work's busy, life's busy, being a parent's busy. You sat in the chair, and I just talk whatever with me barber, and I really enjoy it. It's just that sort of time away from everything, and I never really sort of understood that concept until I read that. I read that you'd talked about that, so that's obviously something
Yeah,
you picked up on.
yeah, it's I mean, I absolutely love being a barber. It's actually it's not like a job to me. It's almost like a paid hobby, and it's I've always said it's not just cutting hair. The magic in the job for me is the conversations, the relationships that you build, and in this modern day world that we live in, where it's everything's mobile phones, we've got social media, all of that. It's great where you're in the barber chair, no phone, and you start having a conversation. And because of that, that's when you have some amazing stories, and also you get men opening up. And my my experience with men's mental health, it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about trying to tackle the problem is I I suffered being in a real dark place with mental health, having sampled a very extreme taste of fame from my Big Brother experience. When I was basically transitioning out of that fame, and work was drying up, and I've come out. I've luckily enough came out of that, but it was suffering from being in a really dark place. It was something that I was very embarrassed about. It was something that I was very shameful. But actually, being a barber, that helped me open up, because I've dealt with numerous cases where men have been in a dark place, and they started opening up to me, and that actually made me share my experience. And it was like, well, actually, mate, I've been there, I've got through it. So yeah, that's kind of like my that's how I've kind of started to be advocate for men's mental health. Basically, it's based off my experience and actually my role as a barber.
Love it, mate. Brilliant. And we'll talk about it, because I think, what you're doing, even the things like this today, I think is brilliant, and it'll help so many people. So let's take it back then to 2005. How does a lad from the Northeast end up on, at the time, probably the biggest show on television, I imagine?
Yeah, it was. So originally it comes from, I'll tell you the backstory. So all my life as a young lad, I basically wanted to be a footballer, and I was I was obsessed with trying to be a footballer. Everything that I done was, I was extremely dedicated. I was training every single night. I stayed away from girls. I stayed away from smoking. I stayed away from alcohol. Everything was football. But like most lads, that dream didn't come off. And I was absolutely terrible academically. Wasn't interested in it, and I was terrible at it. So I basically finished school and didn't have any education. Went to the job. I went to the job centre, and the first half decent job that came up, that I thought was it was a postman. Basically, I became a postman, and after about a year, it was just it just wasn't for me. But I thought, I didn't really see an angle of how I could change anything up. And then basically it came into my head whether this was like deludedly or ridiculous, I was a fan of Big Brother. I remember watching the first show, and then it came into my head where I thought, actually, if I get onto Big Brother, that could potentially change my life up. So the obsessive kind of attitude I had towards football, that basically started going towards getting on Big Brother. And then the rest is history, really. I turned up the auditions like all guns blazing, and luckily enough managed to get on the show, and lucky enough managed to win the show. But yeah, it was, I look back now, it was such a crazy experience. I'll never forget. I remember getting told when I got a random phone call about 2.5 weeks before the show had started, and the next day I had to go and meet the producers in London, and then they told me I was on the show, and then I got hidden away in France for 2 weeks before the show started. And then actually going into the Big Brother house, where it was like I was on there for 79 days, I think, which is nearly 3 months. And it was on such a pedestal, like it was this dream to get on. So to get on it, it was mind blowing. Yeah, unbelievable experience.
And I think, I guess Big Brother 1, no one really knew it was an experiment. Do you know what I mean? I guess that people come out of that experience, had no idea what was going to hit them, because that sudden fame. What was it like for you? Because I imagine you must have expected, 3 months is a long time to be in this world. And I think even your brain will start adapting to that being your world. To suddenly come out to that and come out to all these people. What was that initial experience like? Was it what you thought it would be?
God, it was mind blowing, really. I always say, in reflection, it was a very extreme taste of fame. What I had, because I was a run of the mill young lad who I lived with me mum and my grandma and granddad, and I was quite a young, daft, naive lad back then. And then to be in the house for 3 months and then to come out where everyone knew your name. I come out to fireworks, and then the first person I spoke to was Davina McCall. It's unlike I think it's unlike other types of fame. If you're in a band or you're an actor, you'll probably see that kind of growth. Like, all right, more people are coming to the gig. I'm starting to progress. Whereas this is come out of the house, wallop, everyone knows your name, paparazzi. You're making money that you never normally would make. It was just a huge high and a huge roller coaster. It was a real mad, crazy experience in reflection.
Yeah, and I think if I think of how I would have been in that situation, I probably would have lapped up every situation for it. Do you know what I mean? I think, yeah.
I was all over it.
Yeah.
I was all over it. I am a little bit of an extrovert, so I was all over it. It was unbelievable. I was do the first. So I came out on the Friday night, and I'd won £50,000 for winning the show. The next morning, which was the Saturday, I had about 7 agents wanting to meet me, want to meet me and wanting to sign me up. The last agent who I met, who I was told to go with, within half an hour they'd signed me a 200k photo shoot, which I went and done that morning. And I don't say that to brag at all. It's just to explain how much my life changed overnight. It was crazy. And then it was, and then there was so many other different kind of celebrity type stuff that I'd done.
Did you find your relationships with your people closest to you change because suddenly you're this, suddenly you're now the pal who's minted, and you're now the pal who gets what? Do you know what I mean? Was it got quite a different sort of dynamic?
You know what? I was very lucky in the fact that I had a great family support, and my my friends were I'm lucky to have a real solid group of friends where we've been schoolmates. So literally, like, I've been friends with these lads from nursery. So there's like 3 or 4 of us that have got that longevity of friendship, and we're like brothers. So I'm very lucky to have had that. But I did, in reflection, I did get in with the wrong crowd, and I was a bit naive to people wanting to get to know me for maybe wrong reasons. So I was a bit naive to that.
Yeah, but it's all part of growing up, though, isn't it? Like I say, that's
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing that my experience, there was a very, very high, but it went really low. Would I change anything? No, I wouldn't, because for me, life's a journey, and even the mistakes, they're all lessons, and you all grow from it. And like you've said, it's part of the journey, and it's all lessons, and that's how you grow, and that's carved out the man that I am today.
100%. You mentioned obviously you targeted Big Brother as a potential opportunity for you to get into. What were the main drivers for you? What did you see happening for your life after Big Brother, having gone a show? Because I don't imagine. Well, you're obviously ambitious, but you probably didn't think I want to go on and win this. It was I want to go on and just be on there and see what happens after. Did you have any plans or goals?
Well, the plan was very 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 specific for me, to be honest, to win the show.
Okay.
I think that, I don't know whether that comes from this. I've always been very, very sporty, so I was a bit obsessed with the victory, to be honest. I don't know whether that was ego, or whether that was just me being extremely competitive. So I was hell bent on winning it, and in fact, it's mad that I actually wanted to. Although I wanted to change my life up, I think it might have been because I was a fan of the show, like a big fan of the show. I was more hung up on the victory of the title of winning than the winning prize money.
Really?
Which is probably contrasting in my initial idea of changing things up. But I just basically, like I said, I wasn't academic, and I didn't have any interest. So university didn't even come into my head. So, rightly or wrongly, going down a reality TV show, a reality TV route was the one for me. And it was a bit of a loose plan, really, but I did think things will be able to change up, and I did think socially. I was very much a very social lad. I touched on that I was a postman, but I ended up, and this is a bit of a U-turn of occupation. I before I went on Big Brother, I left Royal Mail, and I became a 70s disco dancer in a dance troupe called Stretch Limo's Boogie Express, and my character was Chico Importante. And I'll never forget when I walked in the house and told me mum and grandma that I'm sacking off the Royal Mail job and I'm going to be a 70s disco dancer. And then next door was asking, why is there a wig on the line? and it was my costume, and that job was an unbelievable job.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
I guess even that would have given you a bit of a taste of not necessarily fame, but making people happy. And essentially,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the people who win Big Brother are people who are likable, and they make you're happy for 3 months.
Yeah, no, it was. I remember kind of being on stage and dancing with girls and doing dance routines, and we were kind of like living in hotels. We toured around all the time, and it was definitely more me than being a postman.
Yeah, yeah.
How's this for you, by the way, having 70s disco dances where you're normally talking about?
It's a pivot. Yeah, it's good. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm all about diversity. So no, but it is. I think it's an obvious. Well, it's interesting because obviously you're obviously someone who from day one has been ambitious. Do you know what I mean? In terms of whatever you do, you want to be the best at, and that was football. And that plan for a reason didn't work out because obviously such a tiny percentage of people that work out. But then you didn't just wallow in and go, right, nothing for me now. You've actually targeted something very, very specific based on who you are and the type of person and character you are, and you've gone and done it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what I always I was a Newcastle United supporter, and I used to go to I was a season ticket holder in the Gallagher end when you were standing.
Yeah.
Me and my best mate John used to go, and I always kind of thought, I had visions of playing there, and luckily enough, the Big Brother experience actually gave me an opportunity to play at Newcastle United in front of the 52,000 because I ended up doing a program called The Match, which was on Sky One. It was a huge TV show at the time, and the format was celebrities played ex-professionals. So I ended up doing that twice, and I ended up getting man of the match both years. And that was, to me, just a little win for me. Although obviously I wasn't a footballer, in my head I was like, you know what, you somehow still managed to get and play on that pitch in front of a capacity crowd. So that was a real kind of ticky box for me.
Yeah, I bet it was. And look, we'll talk about the lows and after and transition because I think it's important. But before we do, out of everything, what was the biggest high? What was a time out after Big Brother where you just thought, my life is peak. It can't get any better. And that might have been driven by ego or whatever. But what can you remember what that time was?
I don't know whether it was a specific one specific moment, but it was just generally coming out of the show as the winner, fireworks going off, and then I'd moved to London. Actually, one moment to stick out where I was me and my best mate Chrissy, we were on a table with the Chelsea football team, and I was sat with Terry Drogba, and there was actually Cole, and me and my mate being huge football fans. I remember looking at each other and we were going like, "What? How's this happened?" So that I would actually say that was the moment where I just thought, this is ridiculous.
It was, because it is when those things happen to a normal lad, it's just special.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was just being a run of the mill young lad from Concert, and then kind of immediately thrown into them kind of circles and stuff. It was crazy experience.
Apologies for interrupting this podcast for a very quick 30-second pitch of my business. Theo James are a specialist manufacturing and engineering recruitment search firm based in Seaham in the Northeast. If you're looking for any staff or a new opportunity yourself, from a semi-skilled level right the way up to C-suite executive, then please get in touch. We have a specialist consultant in each discipline ready to help. I'm extremely proud of what we've built over the years, and I'd love to extend that service out to you. Thank you. Enjoy the podcast. How long did it last where you felt that you were getting the gigs, your agents were calling you up, you were getting the photo shoots? How long do you think that period of time lasted where it felt like this is me, this is my job?
I would say maybe like a good 3 years.
Okay.
I would say a good 3 year, and then maybe it started dwindling from then. Obviously the first year was just mayhem, where I was just doing so much work. I would done pantomimes. I'd brought out a fitness DVD. I was doing personal appearances pretty much every night, where I was going to nightclubs. I was doing the match. There was all sorts. The first year was crazy. The second year was still really good. Third year, and then fourth year, I think it's all a little bit of a blur because it was so long ago. But then I could kind of, it got to the point where I could see it dwindling.
Felt it.
Yeah, and then it was like it got to the point where I was ringing my agent and nothing was coming in, and then it was kind of like, right, no money's coming in here. I'm still spending, but there's nothing coming in here. And then it was like, well, I can't get a real job. And again, whether that was ego or not, it was like, I've won Big Brother. People will laugh at me. I was so paranoid, what people would think of me. And from that, it got into a really dark place.
Yeah. I mind, because that, even though it wasn't, it probably felt like it was overnight almost, that shut, because I think anyone would have been just swept up in that, and you probably would have thought, this is me, this is permanent now, and this is going to be forever.
Yeah. It's, with naivety and with youth, in reflection, I was a bit deluded. It was just kind of like, yeah, this is fantastic. Money's coming in. I'm doing all sorts of different types of jobs. I was deluded to think, yeah, this is just going to keep on rolling. Fantastic. And obviously, sure enough, that didn't happen.
How well managed were you at that time in terms of, perhaps by Channel 4 or Big Brother, whoever it was? Because if you look at Love Island now, you look at what's happened with the ex Love Island contestants, and we talk about mental health and some suicides and posts of it, because they probably quite a similar experience where suddenly they're thrust into the limelight. It's not all good, unfortunately. I think limelight isn't always positive. A lot of people have been criticised heavily and probably haven't been managed very well, and which led to, unfortunately, a couple of deaths. Did you feel like they ever really cared about you, or was it, you were someone they could make money off? If that makes sense.
Yeah. So there wasn't. I was literally kind of flung in the deep end. There wasn't really any. There was no support. There was certainly kind of no support on a mindset point of view, and there wasn't particularly any advice of how to conduct myself or what to maybe do with money or anything like that. But on the flip side, in regards to, like, say, the mental health stuff, in their defence, it wasn't really that much of a thing either.
That wasn't.
The word mental health, the word men's mental health, certainly wasn't in my vocabulary. It's something that I wasn't aware of. So, in their defence, I don't think we were there. Generally, that's kind of like that's slowly but surely transitioned and got better with the likes of Love Island, with what you've mentioned. But yeah, no, there wasn't any help. But I think there's lessons being learned from that, and we're trying to be better with that.
And I think you mentioned there's something quite important, because I think now, if someone feels like they're going down that slope and suddenly in quite a dark place, I've been there myself, then we've now got the education, I guess, and the awareness to go, oof, I might be struggling a little bit here. Like, this could be my mental health. And there's now videos you can watch and people you can talk to, whichever path you choose, where it might be, I need to go and talk to someone, but it might be, right, I need to put these things in place. I need to meditate, journal, exercise, all this type of stuff. But I imagine at the time where it crept into your life, you probably didn't know what it was, I guess.
No, absolutely, completely didn't. I felt weird, to be honest. I remember basically thinking, luckily enough, I had them thoughts, but I remember thinking, do I need to go and see someone? Like, do I need to maybe go and like, and I was kind of brushing it off, thinking that's weird. That's weird. Um, luckily enough, luckily enough, I did have the self-awareness where I thought the fact that you're asking yourself, do I need to do that? That probably tells you that you do, because I'd never felt that before. So I'm so thankful that I had the self-awareness to do that. But yeah, I remember thinking I didn't have the back then I didn't have the knowledge where it was like, look, you've been through something really extreme here. You've had a huge high. Now it's kind of come to an end, and you've had this low. You know, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Back, but I wasn't looking at it like that at all. I just thought, you know, yeah, I've been on Big Brother. Why am I feeling this? Yeah, I didn't have any form of self-awareness or knowledge. Like you've said, it's like the gym. It's like the gym now. Like,
Yeah.
I've probably been in the best shape I've ever been in my 30s and 40s in regards to nutrition or anything. The only thing that I knew about with exercise was like, have a protein shake.
Yeah.
That I had no knowledge of any, like, you know, calorie deficit or anything like that. Now we've got all that knowledge. We can educate ourselves, but
Yeah.
back then it wasn't there.
Yeah, it's a good analogy, and the exactly that. I remember, if I knew what I knew then in the gym, I remember sat at home eating tubs of ice cream because someone told me that, you know, you need calories to. Do you know what I mean? And no, not a clue about the actual nutrition side to it. And exactly the same. It's the same with mental health. That, you know, we now know more, and there's now people like you who, otherwise, you 15 years ago would not have been on television, radio, talking about mental health. It wouldn't have happened. But now you are. It gives, you know, particularly young lads, let's say, a bit more confidence to go, right, you know, this can happen to anyone. This can happen to everyday people. So it's okay. And that's the big thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, absolutely. I think we're so you went off this.
no, go on, mate. As you were saying about reception, I think. Oh,
Yeah, I think it's so important. Can you hear me okay there, mate?
yeah. Sorry, went off there. I'm back. I'm back.
Yeah, I think it's so important to share your experience, because if someone's in a bad place and they hear someone saying, "Listen, I was in this horrific place. I actually got through it. This is what I'd done." Those words are golden, because I remember when I spoke to someone, the guy who had the guy who I was speaking to, the professional who I was speaking to, he'd been in a place, and I remember kind of just hanging on to every word really, and it was like a sense of relief that, like, oh, like it's not just me. There was some stuff that he'd, you know, real similar stuff that he'd experienced, and it was kind of just like, it was very comforting hearing those words. That's why I'm on here today, because I've been there. I know what it's like, and if you are in a bad place, listening to someone who's got through it, that it can make such a difference.
Yeah, 100%. And someone like you as well, who have had a plan from day one, and that plan, like I say, was footballer, then was Big Brother. I imagine the overriding one for you was perhaps feeling a bit lost in terms of what next, because, you know, like you say, you mentioned you can't get a proper job. So was that the biggest feeling for you, that you just didn't really know what direction you're going to go in next?
Yeah, yeah. Basically, it was just, I was at such a crossroads. Um, Again, luckily, I always had a passion for the hair industry. I was doing that on the side before I got on Big Brother, and that was and it was to be honest, it was a little bit of a. I keep on mentioning the word luck, because I do think I had luck. Um, when I was in my worst spot, me worst place, I got someone contacted me about getting back into the hair industry. And I remember I knew I needed a change up. I knew I needed to significantly change things in my life. And I did want to get back into the hair industry, and I got a bit of a branch. And I always think that was such a key part of me kind of turning my life back around. Yeah, and I'm so lucky to be in the hair industry because, like I touched on before, it's something I'm really passionate about and love to do.
And I think that's more important. You know, some people just need to try and find what their passion is to try and get some vision, because that gave you new goals and new directions, I imagine, and obviously it's led you to be where you are today.
Yeah, it was just it's that I had there was no when I was at my worst point, there was no routine, there was nothing to do, so the self-worth, I just felt useless. I felt like a loser. I thought, how the hell have I managed to get in such a good position, and then how have I managed to be in such a bad position? And I was massively beating myself up. But I one particular moment I always remember is my first real job, which was getting back working in a hair salon. And it may sound a bit dramatic and a bit corny, but I remember walking to work, and it was raining, and honestly, I just felt, I knew this was the right steps, and I felt so lucky to be alive, and I just knew this was like I'd committed to a change up, and I was really nervous about going to work on my first day. Again, I was just so paranoid about what people would think and whatnot, and they were my own insecurities. But yeah, I'll never forget what my first day at work. But I knew that I was making the right moves, and then shortly after that, after making them right moves, my life started building momentum. And I always think that salon that I went for my first job, I actually met my now wife.
Amazing.
We've got a son, and I always think, if you're in a bad place, if you just make them small steps can be big steps, and then you start building momentum.
Yeah, I love what you mentioned about caring so much what people think, because I think so many people who have those thoughts, including me, and that's when I think things can creep in. I haven't really spoken to a lot of people about this. Some people have on here, but probably once or twice. But when I went through a bit of a dark place, was probably in an unexpected time where everything seemed on the outside looking in to be perfect. I'd just started a new business. That was always a goal. I would just move into a house I'd always wanted to move into. We'd just have our first child. So I literally ticked every single box by 30 I wanted to tick. That was the time where, for me, it all came crumbling down inside, not externally, but it was struggling really for pressures of running a business, mainly being a dad for the first time and not really having a clue what I was doing. And it's thinking I should be better at this. I'm not good enough. Do you know what I mean? I think it's but I didn't want people to know, because I didn't want them to think less of me. I think that's a big one, isn't
it? Yeah, massive. That's something that I've experienced really. I think you just want to be, especially with being a dad. For me, that was on such a huge pedestal, and I experienced a little bit of that, where you just want to be a good dad, and you want to be kind of like, you want to be supporting your family, you want to be doing the right things. And I think that's the pressures men have. I think it's slightly installed in us that we kind of like, we need to be like the driving force. And I think there's whether that we put that on ourselves, that's some of that I've experienced, where I just want to try and do really, I just want to do really well for me, for my wife, and my son, but with that, there's pressure.
100%. Men from 100 years ago to protect and to provide, and that still never changes. But that in modern day life, that's so much pressure because now we've got to protect, provide, we've got to look our best, we've got so you know what I mean. Like suddenly the man's role has changed a lot. We're now expected to more different roles, and it's complex.
Especially as well though with being self-employed, like me and you are. Like I always kind of like, if I'm kind of having negative thoughts of like, am I trying enough? Am I like, am I hitting it hard? I need to be doing more. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. And I think probably a lot of people who are self-employed will probably feel them thoughts.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's ironic because I run a podcast, but I always feel like I need to be making myself better and listening to podcasts about productivity and that's and almost feel guilty at times from just watching something which isn't going to better me. Where it's just the pressures of trying to do everything we've said. So now I think it's fascinating. Given what you know now and all the now advice you've had, obviously when luckily you sought that advice at the time. What do you think were the key things you put in place to start changing your life and feeling that little bit better, would you say? Perhaps if someone's stuck in that world now, would you say?
I think firstly, it came with talking.
Yeah.
That and basically acknowledging that I need to talk basically. I think you should tell someone who's a professional, and I think you should tell someone who you love about if you're in a certain place. I really do believe that. Luckily enough, I eventually got I was very open with me mum and my grandma. Secondly, I would say a change up. Nothing will change if you actually don't change it. And that was a big thing for me in terms of basically improving my life and getting back on track. I changed location. I was going out. I was going out basically all the time. I was doing a classic trait. What men do is basically men are 3 times more likely to turn to substances, alcohol or drugs. We do that for escapism, where we kind of basically we escape our reality. So I changed locations. I got out of, there was acquaintances and people that I was basically hanging around with that I basically, with no malice, had to cut them out of my life. I needed to be away from them, and I needed to, so my thing was I changed location. That might be, for other people, that might be change of job. That might be getting out of a toxic relationship or anything. Whatever you see the problem is, you need to change that up. And then I think also just acknowledging that time is a healer if you implement the right things. Nothing bad lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. And suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary feeling. So just know that if you just change things up, if you just talk, and if you just be consistent with doing the right things, sooner or later you will come out of that dark place that you're at. And then another bits of advice are basically just the gym, or whatever exercise you like. I think whether you're into fitness or whether you're into exercise or whether you're into anything where it comes to exercise, whether you like it or not, that's not relevant. I think we should all implement exercise in our life, especially with this modern world that we live in now, and especially the rate of suicide. We have to have these shields in our life to shield us from the toxic things that are in this modern world.
Yeah, love that, mate. I think that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely brilliant. And look, I've really enjoyed this, and I've been super impressed. And I think, you're an example of someone who you set your mind at something, whether that's a particular sport or a job or to change your life or whatever you want. The most important thing is you've got a goal and you've got a vision and you've got it and you've done it. And I think, for anyone listening who perhaps isn't quite there yet, to do the things you've suggested, I think is absolutely essential. And like you say, the first being just speak to someone about it and then start to put things in place. So look, it's been an honour interviewing you. I've really enjoyed it. It's been an absolute honour, but it'll definitely help a lot of people. If people want to contact you or get a haircut, what's the best advice? Where can he find you?
If you want to contact me, I'm on Instagram, Anthony Hutton, or there's Mr. Hutton's Barbers and Bar, and I've just set up a new Instagram page where it's the Never Throw in the Towel project. I've also got a booking system where it's called Booksy, and it's just basically an online booking system where you just pick the time, pick the date, pick the service, and then you booked in. And yeah, that's it really. But yeah, if you ever want to, you look like you've got a good head of hair, to be honest, mate. So
I need a haircut, mate. I need a haircut. I was just when I was talking, I was thinking, oh, my life, I need a haircut. So yeah, I'll see you very soon. But no, Darlington based, are you? Darlington City Centre, is it?
Yeah, I'm Darlington based. I had a business for 9 years. It was Mr. Hutton's Barbers and Bar, where it was basically a barbershop and a cocktail bar.
Nice.
It was. I've just come out of that building. I've kind of hung my boots up with the bar life. Just
you're dad now, mate.
Yeah. The two in the mornings, 3 in the mornings getting in was just I'd kind of done me time. But yeah, so I'm basically just in a temporary salon at the moment, just in Darlington Town Centre. But I'm on actually converting my garage, and I'm converting that into a full working barbershop.
Plus, excellent stuff. Well, the best luck with everything, mate. I'll make sure I'll put those links on. If anyone is interested as well in raising some awareness and some funds, the walk we're doing is from Whitburn, 17th, Friday 17th, which will be shortly after this goes out. So please feel free to get in touch with me. But thank you very much, Adi. It's been great. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on, Mark. I've enjoyed it.